How long are you going to stay there? Get out and wait outside, you useless old man. During a crucial negotiation with a client that could bring in $30 million in sales, my manager, Lily, tried to pin all responsibility on me. We had discovered that the original material proposed for the product was unusable, and she wanted to make it seem like I was the one who had written the proposal in the first place. Following her orders, I stepped outside to look for someone. But before I could even start, I saw him walking down the hallway toward me. "Oh, it's you, Chris. Is the meeting over already?" I was acquainted with Mr. Smith, the client's CEO. After confirming the reason for the material change, we entered the conference room together. "Do you know who this is?" I asked, sensing Lily's confusion. Unaware that her downfall was about to begin, Lily continued insisting it wasn't her fault. "My name is Chris. At 45, I had changed jobs, embarking on a new chapter in my life. My new workplace was Adams Manufacturing, a company that started as a small metalworking shop. When a major client suddenly cut ties with them, they attempted to come back by creating their own products, which turned out to be a huge success. Now, anyone who hears the name Adams Manufacturing knows them as the company that made those famous pots, recognized by cooking enthusiasts everywhere. I was excited about the opportunity to make my dreams come true here. On my first day, I was assigned to the Planning and Development Department and was escorted there by Mr. Adams himself. However, just as we arrived, he got a call from a key client and asked me to get further details from the department manager, Lily. Nervous since this was my first job change, I opened the door with trembling hands. "Starting today, I'll be working here. My name is Chris. It's a pleasure to meet you all." A woman approached me in response to my introduction. "I'm the manager, Lily. Nice to meet you." I had heard that Lily, at just 30 years old, had become the head of the Planning and Development Department, a person Mr. Adams had high hopes for. Given her young age, I was worried she might have a harsh personality, but her gentle smile eased my concerns. "Mr. Adams has told me a lot about you, Lily. I'm honored to work under someone like you. Even as a newcomer, I was 15 years older than her. While gradually transitioning might have been okay, I should have found it odd that she used no formal language with me right from the start. I've heard about you too, from Mr. Adams. You enjoy going to afternoon tea, right?" she said. I often went as part of my hobbies, but my real passion was, before I could finish explaining, Lily burst out laughing, leaving me stunned. A 45-year-old man with a hobby like afternoon tea. I struggled to keep from laughing in front of Mr. Adams when he told me. How could you proudly declare such an embarrassing hobby? No one would be unaffected by having their favorite things ridiculed. As I fell silent, Lily continued her attack. "Our company often gets media attention, you know. I can't imagine someone who switched jobs at 45 has any real talent. But I'd hate for people to find out that a creepy old man like you came up with a product that might not sell because of it. None of your ideas will see the light of day. That's all I wanted to say." Lily then delegated all the necessary work explanations to a nearby colleague. The next moment, she returned to her desk as if I didn't exist. Despite what Lily said, not submitting ideas while in the planning department would be like not working at all. Hoping she might change her mind after seeing my proposal, I submitted several, but all were promptly rejected. "Stop wasting paper and my time. I'm busy with Smith's project." Lily threw back the proposal papers without even looking at them. The A4 sheets, still clipped together, hit my face and scattered across the floor as the clip came loose. As I was about to break under the strain, the familiar name of the company brought me back to reality. "Is Smith from Smith Corporation?" "Yes, our important client. Surely you know that much." Smith Corporation specializes in kitchenware. They don't manufacture their own products, but select items they deem good to sell in their stores. According to Lily, they were planning to open a store focused on tea products, and we were tasked with producing a stainless steel teapot to be their flagship item. With a price around $100 and being a collaboration between us and Smith Corporation, it was expected to sell well, potentially bringing in $30 million in sales. Mr. Adams mentioned you should prepare the proposal for Smith's project. I guess he thinks of it as a training exercise, but who knows what he's thinking. I understand. I'll have it ready by the end of the day. Lily laughed derisively at my prompt agreement. You don't need to make it. I'll do it all. I'll let you sit in on the meeting, but don't say a word. Understood. Then could I see the proposal you've prepared beforehand? Lily looked genuinely confused by my request. What are you talking about? A newcomer sitting in on the meeting doesn't get to speak. Therefore, there's no need for you to see the proposal. Just act like you don't exist and don't get in my way. Got it. A month later, I attended the meeting with Smith Corporation. Following Lily's instructions, I silently listened to the conversation. The product Lily had developed for our important client was impeccable in both design and functionality. It was the kind of product I would want to buy myself. The client's representative was also impressed, and the discussion progressed smoothly. Feeling unnecessary, I casually flipped through the proposal. Things took a drastic turn a few days later when Lily received a phone call. She stood up abruptly. What do you mean now? Do you know who I am? Wait a minute. After arguing with the caller for a few minutes, she stormed out of the office, clutching her company phone. A colleague who had answered the call first told me it was Tony, our factory manager. Given the timing, it had to be about the product we were developing with Smith Corporation. While I worried, Lily turned with an unsettling smile. Chris, we need to go see Mr. Smith tomorrow. Make sure you're there. Her sweet tone gave me a bad feeling. I'll send you the new proposal once it's ready. Review it before tomorrow. Am I allowed to see it this time? On second thought, you need to see it to learn. Read my perfect proposal and use it someday. Within an hour, the new proposal was in my inbox. Since Lily had quickly collected the previous proposal, and I didn't have access to the files, I couldn't be sure, but it didn't seem like much had changed. It was odd that there were no changes despite the heated phone call. Still uneasy, I attended the second meeting the next day. As I tried to sit down in the client's conference room, Lily grabbed my shoulders and made me stand. Actually, the content presented last time was developed by Chris. Here he is, a promising newcomer personally scouted by Adams. Since he didn't have presentation experience, I did it on his behalf. But this time, he will present himself. Lily whispered in my ear, "Make the most of this chance I gave you." Confused, I began reading through the proposal. Under Lily's direction, there were no changes from the previous proposal, yet I had to start the explanation from scratch, which made no sense to me. I wondered if the client wouldn't find it odd to hear the same pitch again, but they seemed to be watching my presentation with interest, likely understanding that I was new. What on earth is happening? Wait a minute. Isn't the stainless steel composition different from last time? With the client's comment, I finally understood Lily's intent. The more chromium and nickel in stainless steel, the more resistant it is to rust. In Lily's initial proposal, the composition had 20% chromium and 20% nickel. This ratio minimizes the metallic taste and smell to a level even top chefs wouldn't notice. However, this also made the material harder to work with. It was a product that only Adams Manufacturing could produce, and the clients loved it for that. My apologies, but it seems Chris here created the proposal without consulting our craftsmen. We were informed that they couldn't manufacture the product as proposed, so we recommend using 18/8 stainless steel instead. I see. 18/8 is still good quality, but it's disappointing. I'm terribly sorry. The client's response soured noticeably. Sensing an opportunity, Lily moved to get rid of me. Why are you still here? Get out and wait outside, you useless old man. Lily likely planned to pin the entire blame on me if the deal fell through. Following her orders, I stepped outside to look for someone. But before I could even start looking, I saw him walking down the hallway towards me. "Oh, it's you. Chris, is the meeting over already?" George Smith, the CEO of Smith Corporation, and I were acquainted. "No, I got kicked out." "Kicked out? You surprised?" Mr. Smith listened as I briefly explained the situation. Then I called our factory. After confirming the reason for the change in stainless steel, I received the expected response. Determined to point out Lily's mistake in front of Mr. Smith, we entered the conference room. "Weren't you supposed to go back to the office?" Lily fell silent when she saw Mr. Smith enter behind me. "Mr. Smith, it's been a while. Did my subordinate cause you any trouble?" Mr. Smith, visibly displeased, took a seat. "Oh, he's caused a lot of trouble. I sincerely apologize for that. I'll make sure Chris faces the proper consequences when we get back." Mr. Smith, leaning on the table with both elbows, glared at Lily. "Not Chris. You caused the trouble." The force of his words made Lily falter. "Are you talking about the stainless steel issue? While I do bear responsibility for the lack of training, the change in material was entirely Chris's fault." "Oh, even now, you're still blaming Chris. You know the numerous products I've developed, Mr. Smith. Are you really going to believe a newcomer over someone as skilled and experienced as me?" Despite having something to hide, Lily confidently described herself as skilled and experienced, and in a way, I respected her for it. If I could be as thick-skinned as she is, life would certainly be easier. "Do you know who this man is?" "Who? Chris? Who else?" Chris is well known among tea enthusiasts as Mr. Smith. He mentioned my passion for tea had led me and my wife to frequent afternoon tea spots, which I documented on social media, gaining a large following. My reviews would boost reservations, attracting the attention of various companies. While I loved visiting tea shops, I preferred enjoying tea at home, and I had a particular interest in teacups and teapots. When I expressed my dream of creating the perfect teapot on social media, Adams Manufacturing reached out to me, which eventually brought Smith Corporation into the conversation. I was so committed to creating something I could be proud of that I decided to change careers to pursue this opportunity. Mr. Adams told me, "You didn't, did you? Chris must be involved in this project." Yes, Lily seemed to think it was just for training. Embarrassed at being humiliated in front of a client, Lily turned red. Mr. Adams didn't explain it properly. I'd assumed it was just for training purposes. It's only natural to think a newcomer wouldn't be tasked with a crucial client proposal. "So you only had him sit in for training?" "Yes. Is that a problem?" Lily still didn't realize the contradiction in her story. "That's strange. You yourself said Chris developed this proposal. Isn't that contradictory?" Lily, suddenly realizing her mistake, hurriedly tried to explain. "At first, he was just supposed to sit in, but I changed my mind midway and decided to have him create the proposal." Mr. Smith didn't bother listening to Lily's excuses and signaled to me. "I confirmed with Tony earlier. Lily, you've been making unreasonable demands on the craftsman for a while now, haven't you? The product design was difficult to manufacture even for our experienced craftsmen. Moreover, Lily insisted on taking credit for the $3 million deal after the previous presentation. She told the craftsman the client had already approved it, so changes were impossible, and tried to force them to make it. Her outrageous demands infuriated the craftsmen. They refused to make it and even told Tony that manufacturing it was impossible. That was the argument Lily had on the phone the other day. I apologize for the inconvenience, but could we have another chance? This time, let me propose the product I developed. Of course, as long as it's the product Chris developed. It will be meaningful. I'll speak to Mr. Adams about it." The meeting concluded with that. Lily, who was told that the incident would be reported to our CEO, returned to the office with a heavy heart. Over the next few days, I worked on drafting a proposal for the teapot I had envisioned even before joining the company. To ensure its feasibility, I took the proposal to the factory to consult with the craftsman. I've outlined my ideas here. Considering mass production, do you think it's feasible? The craftsman, though not particularly friendly, patiently explained the points that needed improvement and how the costs were higher than I had anticipated. Lily sat quietly listening to our discussion. Currently, she was under internal review for disciplinary action. Mr. Adams had instructed her to apologize to the craftsman, and she had accompanied me for this purpose, though she wasn't aware of it yet. Both Mr. Adams and Mr. Smith valued her work. They were considering leniency in her punishment if she showed remorse and changed her attitude towards the craftsman. Thank you very much for your time today. I'll make the necessary corrections and return later for further confirmation. After shaking hands with the craftsman, I turned to look at Lily behind me. I had intended to signal that it was the right moment for her to apologize, but Lily, feeling humiliated, seemed to misunderstand. When I present my proposals, you always say it's impossible, but for his proposal, you give proper advice. Sensing trouble, I quickly tried to cover her mouth, but she swatted my hand away. You give this old man's proposal serious consideration because you're just a bunch of low-educated middle school and high school graduates who resent a beautiful, highly educated woman who climbed the ranks quickly. Mixing personal feelings with work is despicable. Seeing that Lily was entirely unrepentant, the craftsman's anger reached its peak. As I considered dragging her out, Tony intervened. Lily, our company's growth is thanks to the skills of these craftsmen. They are our pride, but that doesn't mean they can do everything. We need to discuss what can and can't be done and reach an agreement. I do want to discuss things with them, but they always say it can't be done and refuse to have a proper conversation. You call this discussion. You always send your proposals via email and demand they make it exactly as outlined. Every time, I have to intervene and make phone calls. Consider my position for once. Tony paused, sighed deeply. My dog listens better than you. It's laughable to call you highly educated. Being compared to a dog infuriated Lily. I have a meeting with Mr. Adams. I'll tell him how you're all dragging down our development. I pulled Lily aside to tell her the truth. Mr. Adams heard everything we just said. You're lying. You think I'll bow down to them. Think again. It's not a lie. Mr. Adams was listening to see if you would show remorse and lighten your punishment. That's why he was listening. ###. Here's your script with punctuation and paragraph formatting. I showed her the phone in call mode, and Lily collapsed. No, it's not my fault. It is your fault. What would have happened if the craftsman had resigned because of you? Anyone who can't consider the company's interests doesn't deserve to be a manager. Lily stared at the floor in frustration. A month later, the prototype of the product I designed was completed. When I showed it to Mr. Smith, he was pleased, and the contract was successfully finalized. Lily was set to be transferred to the factory next month. It was a message from Mr. Adams that she needed to reflect while working with the craftsman, but I doubted it would get through to her. She watched me with dark, scheming eyes every day. Her plot became clear. Just a few days before her transfer, I discovered that the same product was being released elsewhere. I was suddenly summoned to the CEO's office and told that a tea specialty store was selling a product almost identical to mine. It had to be Lily who leaked the information. I returned to the office to confront Lily, but she just smirked. You sold my proposal to another company, didn't you? I have no idea what you're talking about. If that's how you want to play it, I have my ways. I immediately visited the company running the tea specialty store. They were shocked to hear my story. It turned out Lily had a contact in their planning department and sold the information to them privately. The other company was shocked to learn that the product they thought was their own creation had been stolen. When they called in the person responsible and confronted them, they quickly confessed out of fear. The other company agreed to stop selling the product immediately. Furthermore, When I showed them the prototype I had brought just in case, their CEO was so impressed that he wanted to implement it in their stores with cafe spaces. This unexpected additional sales opportunity put a spring in my step as I returned to the office. Seeing me in high spirits, Lily realized her scheme had failed. Furious, she threw the file on her desk to the floor. Leaking information involved our clients to another company. You'll definitely be terminated for cause. I was going to quit this company anyway. You'll regret losing such a talented employee like me. Of course, it was Lily who ended up regretting it. After being terminated for cause, Lily struggled to find a new job. While she could have quickly found work if she wasn't picky about the job type or company, she refused to settle for anything less than a prestigious firm. Rumor had it she was contacting all her former colleagues, begging them to introduce her to companies they knew, but no one could recommend someone who was terminated for cause. Without any leads, Lily ended up working a temporary job inspecting products at a factory, claiming it was just until she found something better. However, her habit of looking down on factory workers got her into trouble. She got yelled at daily with comments like, "What's with that attitude?" and ended up crying and begging her former colleagues for help. For her own sake, I thought it best to leave her to reflect on her actions. 6 months after Lily left, the teapot I designed was finally released. It was an unexpected hit, with production struggling to keep up with demand, much to the delight of Mr. Adams and Mr. Smith. One Saturday afternoon, I made tea with that teapot and served it to my wife. This is delicious, as expected from something you put so much effort into. It's really special. Proud of the compliment, I started explaining its features. I made sure it has a round shape to encourage jumping, and it also retains heat well. My wife smiled warmly as she listened to me passionately talk about the teapot. We didn't have children and had chosen to live our lives together as a couple. These moments of enjoying tea together were precious to us. For both my wife and myself, I wanted to continue working on developing products that enhance our tea drinking experience.
At my usual bar, sipping on my regular whiskey on the rocks, I was suddenly addressed by a familiar voice from behind. "Wait, what? Are you kidding me? Why are you here of all places?" I turned around with a feeling of disgust, as if I were scratching a glass with my nails. To my surprise, it was my ex-wife, Olivia. "Olivia, what brings you here?" That was my reply. "Well, I like the ambience of this place, and I've taken a liking to it. It's a bit pricey, but my husband earns well, so the high prices suit us just fine. You, on the other hand, don't earn so much, so coming here must be quite a stretch for you, right? It's pathetic to see you trying to punch above your weight. Or perhaps you decided to blow all your savings for today, poor thing. I could buy you a drink out of pity if you'd like." Olivia stood there looking down at me as I sat, wearing such a cheap shirt. "You really do look ridiculous." Despite my intention to ignore Olivia's remarks, I couldn't help but feel slightly irritated. However, I knew better than to lose my cool, as that would only play into our hands. I just wished she would leave me alone and move to another seat. My pleasant time enjoying my drink was completely ruined. Then, to my dismay, Olivia decided to sit next to me. "Feeling all right? You're probably still stuck in that dreary little salon, working as a hired hairstylist, living on a meagre salary for life. How pitiful. On the contrary, my husband is about to be promoted to manager. Unlike you, he's a competent individual. It's astonishing how different you two are, despite being brothers. I really made the right choice by leaving you." Olivia continued to spew her venomous words. Being bombarded with so much sarcasm, I almost started to wonder if this was some kind of twisted service mentality. It might be Olivia's own way of providing entertainment, trying to amuse me. No, that couldn't be it. I shook my head to clear those thoughts, and reminded myself once again of how terrible my ex-wife truly was. After all, Olivia was the woman who, while married to me, seduced my brother and then divorced me to marry him. The fact that such an awful person exists outside of TV drama still sends shivers down my spine. Wanting nothing to do with her, I resolved to keep my responses as neutral as possible. So, Nov is moving up in the world. Congratulations, that's what I said to Olivia. She, such a pitiful younger brother. Olivia continued to look down on me with disdain. Then, a regular patron of the bar, Ava, who had been silently listening to our entire conversation, spoke up. Ava and I often met at this bar and shared stories with each other. Excuse me, I don't know what your relationship with Michael is, but you sure are arrogant. Listening to you is quite unpleasant. I don't know who you think you are, but do you even know anything about him? Michael, who's sitting right here, I hardly said to Ava. Ava, it's okay. There's no need for you to say anything. But Ava, tilting her wine glass with a triumphant look, said to me, you should just speak up. Why not put this superficial, vile woman in her place? Hearing this, Olivia raised her voice. What the? Who do you think you are, madam? It's rude to speak like that to someone you've just met. Mind your own business. Ignoring Olivia's words, Ava continued, rude? That's funny coming from you, who's far ruder. But go ahead, take a good look with those murky eyes of yours, Mason. Show this rude woman the magazine from earlier, please. Ava called out to Mason, the bar owner. Mason placed an issue of the internationally renowned fashion magazine Beauty Woman, abbreviated as BW, on the counter where the three of us were seated. Wait, what is this? Olivia was taken aback as she looked at the cover of the magazine. My name is Michael. I grew up in a town just outside of New York, in a family of 4, my father, mother, brother Noah, and myself. My father was known to be good at drawing since he was a child and aimed for art school after high school. But after failing the entrance exams 3 times, he gave up on his dream. Having entered the workforce with just a high school diploma, he struggled to find a well-paying job. My mother, who was quite naive and sheltered, married my father by chance and resented him for their life of poverty and his lack of higher education. Because of this, Noah and I were raised with our mother constantly drilling into us that getting into a high-ranking school is the most important thing in life. Noah sincerely believed in what we were taught and never neglected his studies, even during the busy times of club activities in middle school. Eventually, advancing to a high school with a high academic standard, in high school he maintained top grades and went on to attend a prestigious university from which he graduated. However, I was not influenced by either my mother or Noah. Despite giving up on art school, my father would paint as a hobby on weekends and visit exhibitions of acquaintances who were painters. I was influenced by my father and shaped by his character. I'm going to check out some paintings at a gallery in Chelsea. Want to come along? I was often invited by my father on Sundays like this, and while my brother Noah had no interest at all, I was fascinated by art, so I frequently joined him on such outings. My father had many acquaintances in the art world, and as a child, I had many opportunities to meet artists who were friends of my father. This influenced my decision to become a hairdresser, leading me to enroll in a beauty school instead of high school after graduating from middle school. Most of my classmates went on to high school, and it's not that I didn't consider it. I thought that following my mother's advice to graduate from a good university and secure a job at a stable company was a perfectly fine path. But since Noah had already taken that path, I felt I didn't need to, and there was another reason. When I was in 9th grade, I overheard my mother saying to my father late at night, "How are we going to afford Michael's further education? With just Noah's tuition and tutor fees, our finances are already stretched." Then, though I felt guilty for even dropping that, it became the deciding factor for me to feel that it was okay not to go to university. Admittedly, beauty school also required tuition, but I managed by working part-time to cover the costs and my personal expenses. I enjoyed my studies in beauty, which seemed to suit me well. Therefore, I never doubted that I was leading a successful life, and at 18, I was content with my job as an apprentice hairdresser, even though the pay was low. 2 years after entering the workforce, I was recognized as a hairdresser and started living independently. Life was tough, but manageable if I kept my expenses in check. Then, a turning point came after a class reunion when we turned 18. "It's been a while, Michael." I was approached like this by Olivia, who was a classmate in elementary and middle school. Hi. I didn't remember her. No wonder, despite attending the same elementary and middle schools, we were only in the same class once, and that one time was merely because she transferred to my school during the 3rd term of 3rd grade. In other words, we were only classmates for about 2 months. Forgotten by you, Michael. That's a shock. Olivia's words made me feel guilty. At 18, she was very beautiful, and given my work-focused, romance-free lifestyle, it's true that she caught my attention a bit. She asked for my contact information, we kept in touch, and even she asked me out, so before I knew it, we were dating. She had a strong desire to marry, and after some contemplation, we registered our marriage. At 23, as a hairdresser in a small suburban salon, I wasn't financially well off. We couldn't afford a lavish wedding, nor could we live luxuriously after marriage. I thought it would be better to wait until my income increased, but Olivia wanted to marry right now and wouldn't listen to reason. So I resolved myself to it. I wasn't living a wealthy life yet, but I was determined to gradually increase my income. After all, it wasn't just about me anymore. I had a family now. After registering our marriage, I dedicated even more time to studying beauty-related subjects in my spare time. The owner of the salon where I worked even discussed a possible promotion to manager, leaving me constantly pondering whether to accept or seek opportunities elsewhere. It happened just as things were coming to a head, about a year after we got married. "Hi, we need to talk." I received a message from Noah, with whom I didn't usually communicate much. Wondering what it was about, I replied, "What's up?" And he asked to meet in person. So we arranged to meet after work the next day at the cafe where we agreed to meet. Not only Noah was waiting, but to my surprise, Olivia was there too. I came to talk to Noah today. Why is Olivia here?" I asked, completely baffled by the situation, and took a seat opposite Noah and Olivia. "I'm really sorry, Michael." Noah apologized deeply to me. Olivia remained silent. "What are you apologizing for?" I felt a strange discomfort in the air, making even a coffee tasteless. I should be the one to say it, not Noah. Olivia spoke up. I couldn't believe my ears. "I'm sorry, Michael. I want to divorce you and be with Noah," Olivia stated firmly. I was utterly confused. "I don't understand what you're saying." That was all I could muster in response. "I've grown to dislike our marriage, and I've fallen in love with Noah," Olivia explained. "Wait, Olivia, do you realize what you're saying? You're married to me, right? Falling in love with my brother, don't you think that's wrong? How did things end up like this?" I was lost, unable to figure out who was in the wrong or what went wrong. "I know it's wrong to be with your wife, But Olivia's passion moved me too, Noel admitted. At that moment, something snapped inside me. I had resolved to protect my wife as family once we decided to marry, even though I was still unreliable, aiming to improve gradually. But Olivia had decided on her own to divorce me, and she involved my brother. I recalled her frequent late returns, but I too often came home late from work and thought she was just busy with her job. Was she meeting Noah all this time? I didn't know how it happened, nor did I want to know any more. The fact was, my brother and wife were sitting in front of me, both saying the same thing. Fine, do as you please, I was disgusted. I left the cafe. However, since Olivia and I lived together, she returned home after I did. The atmosphere was awkward, but I confronted her. I wish you had spoken up if you were dissatisfied with me, Olivia replied. I like you as a person, Michael, but I prefer Noah because he has a higher education and income. I was trembling with anger. Yet, knowing that women might seek education and income, I tried to calm myself, thinking it was inevitable. Sorry for not earning more, but did you have to go about it this way? I managed to keep my cool as I said this. Olivia simply stated, I'm not to blame, and went to her room. Watching her leave, I felt utterly indifferent. Even if I was at fault for not providing enough, wanting to remarry my brother, and if Olivia only saw Noah as a man with high education and income, it seemed like she was just using him conveniently. I thought Noah was crazy to consider being with his brother's wife, but he was supposed to be a serious, hard-working person. True, he was stubborn and strong. We'd married because of his earnestness. I worried that Noah was being manipulated by Olivia. Noah, think it over again, Olivia said. She wants to marry you because you are well educated and have a high income. If she doesn't truly love you, I'm worried about the future. I messaged him that night, but his reply was disappointing. It's uncool to say such things just because you want to keep Olivia. I was disheartened. I had no lingering feelings for Olivia. In fact, I doubted her character, so I wanted to warn my brother to prevent him from becoming another victim. But this was ultimately a matter of personal judgment between adults, so I felt I couldn't say anything more to Noah, and so I agreed to the divorce. I felt neither loneliness nor regret. Instead, I felt a sense of relief to avoid worrying our parents and Olivia's. I assured them, we've discussed this thoroughly and are all in agreement, so please don't worry. After the divorce was finalized, I never saw Noah or Olivia again. I made sure to visit my family home on different days to avoid crossing paths with them. And then 3 years went by. By that time, I was living my days, hardly ever thinking about my ex-wife and brother. For a while after the divorce, I was frequently overwhelmed by a sense of unbearable sadness and went through some tough times. I felt no sorrow whatsoever for losing Olivia. It was the memory of my wife and brother wanting to marry each other during our marriage that made me distressed for a while. However, time is the greatest healer, and after 3 years, my wounds had healed and the flashbacks had ceased. I was living a peaceful and happy life. Then, one day after work, I stopped by my usual bar. Little did I know at the time that something unbelievable was about to happen. Here, as I sit, my usual whiskey on the rocks at the counter, I was suddenly addressed by a familiar voice from behind. Wait, what? Are you kidding me? Why are you here of all places? I turned around with a feeling of disgust, as if I were scratching a glass with my nails. To my surprise, it was my ex-wife, Olivia. Olivia, what brings you here? That was my reply. Well, I like the ambience of this bar, and it's a bit pricey, but my husband earns well, so it suits us just fine. You, on the other hand, must be stretching your budget to come here. Trying to act above your station is just pathetic. Or did you decide to splurge all your savings today, poor thing? I could buy you a drink out of pity if you'd like. Olivia stood there, looking down at me seated, and rambled on by herself. I chose to remain silent, listening to her without engaging, knowing that arguing would only bring me down to her level. Undeterred, Olivia continued, "Wearing such a cheap shirt, you really do look ridiculous." Despite my intention to ignore her, I couldn't help but feel a bit irritated by her comments. However, getting angry would only play into her hands, so I kept my cool. All I wanted was for her to leave me alone and move to another seat. My pleasant time enjoying my drink was completely ruined. Then, unbelievably, Olivia decided to sit next to me. 2 Care Royale, please. Olivia ordered from Mason, the bartender, and within 3 minutes, 2 Care Royals were placed in front of us with a thud. "Here you go," handed one of the drinks to Olivia. I nearly fell off my chair. "Wait, this is for me." Surprised, I said that, and Olivia replied, "Of course, it's not like I'm going to drink both at the same time." I'm not really into sweet drinks, mixing sweet liquor with sweet juice. I just don't get it, I said to myself, truly perplexed. But not wanting to cause a scene by refusing Olivia's offer, I simply said, "Thank you," and accepted the glass filled with a murky-coloured drink. Doing all right, still slaving away in that run-down little salon, I bet. Living on such a meagre salary is just pitiful. Unlike you, my husband is about to be promoted to manager. It's amazing how 2 brothers can be so different. I really made the right choice by leaving you. Olivia went on a tirade, all by herself again, dripping with sarcasm. Being bombarded with so much sarcasm, I almost started to wonder if this was some kind of cued service mentality. It might be Olivia's own way of providing entertainment, trying to amuse me. Or maybe not. I shook my head to clear it and reminded myself of just how terrible my ex-wife really was. After all, Olivia was the woman who, while married to me, seduced my brother and then divorced me to remarry him. The fact that such an awful person exists not just in dramas, but in reality, still sends shivers down my spine. Wanting nothing more to do with her, I resolved to keep my responses as non-committal as possible. "Nova's moving up in the world, congratulations," I said to Olivia. "What a pitiful younger brother." Olivia continued to look down on me with disdain. Then Ava, a regular patron who had been silently listening to our entire conversation, decided to speak up. Ava and I often met at this bar and would share stories with each other. "Hey you, I don't know what your relationship with Michael is, but you sure are arrogant. It's quite unpleasant to listen to. I don't know what your status is, but do you even know anything about him?" Michael sitting here, I quickly said to Ava, "Ava, it's okay. There's no need to say anything more." But Ava, tilting her wine glass with a triumphant look, said to me, "Michael should just speak up. Why not put this superficial, vile woman in her place?" Hearing this, Olivia raised her voice. Who do you think you are, madam? It's rude to speak like that to someone you've I just met. Mind your own business." Ignoring Olivia, Eva continued, "Rude? That's funny coming from you, who's far ruder. But go ahead, take a good look with those murky eyes of yours, Mason. Show this rude woman the magazine from earlier, please." Eva called out to Mason, the bar owner. "The magazine? Right here it is." Mason placed an issue of the internationally renowned fashion magazine Beauty Woman, abbreviated as BW, on the counter where the 3 of us were seated. "Wait, what is this?" Olivia was taken aback as she looked at the cover of the magazine. "That's right, The man on the cover is Michael, Ava said with even more pride. No way. Isn't this a photo with the global music icon Maria Smith? What's going on? Olivia, in panic, flipped through the magazine. Wait, a 10-page feature on Marie and Michael. Olivia frantically flipped back and forth through the magazine, looking at the articles and photos. Then she demanded an explanation from me. Explain this, Michael. Ava began to explain on my behalf. As you can see, Michael has become the exclusive hair and makeup artist for the world-famous singer Maria. His talent has been highly praised, and he's been offered to do hair and makeup for models and fashion shows by famous designers who appear in Paris Fashion Week. While listening, Olivia kept muttering, "No way," in disbelief. Then she exclaimed, "But Michael, you were just a hairstylist in a small suburban salon. How did you rise so high all of a sudden?" I participated in various contests while working as a hairstylist, even when we were married. I talked to you about it, but you looked down on me, didn't listen, and showed no interest. I didn't make it in domestic contests, but when I took a chance on international ones, I was recognized. That's how I got noticed by a famous hair and makeup artist trained under them, and then entered bigger contests. I won a grand prize in one of them, which led to my role as Maria's exclusive artist. Though I thought it unnecessary to explain all this to Olivia, Ava had already shared so much about me, so I reluctantly added my own explanation. "That's amazing, Michael," Olivia said, then added, "as expected of my ex-husband. I'm his ex-wife. Let's meet up as exes sometime. For starters, I'd love to get Maria's autograph. Can you introduce me to her in person?" I was astounded by her sudden change in attitude upon learning of my connections with famous people. "Truly superficial. You really are despicable. Stay away from Michael. I don't care if you're his ex-wife or whatever. You have no relation to him now. And by the way, you called Michael's shirt cheap earlier, but it's from a famous brand. You can't even recognize quality." AA raised her voice, but Olivia, undeterred, said, "Hey, Michael, actually, I've been regretting it. I think you were the better man after all. Noah has been all about work lately and doesn't pay attention to me. I'm lonely. Please, I'm going to divorce Noah anyway, so won't you give us another chance?" While she entered, wound her arm with mine, I instinctively shook her off, saying, "Stop it." Ava then remarked, "Michael, you really shook her off from the bottom of your heart. Well, of course, there's no way you'd get back together with such a woman." Because just then, as AA was about to continue, she exclaimed, "Speak of the devil." And I turned around in response to her shout, only to see a familiar figure, Emma, the woman I called Emma, was my girlfriend. Emma, don't get the wrong idea. Michael did nothing wrong. It's this woman who's at fault. She came on to him unilaterally. Ava explained on my behalf. "Yes, I saw everything. You're Olivia, Michael's ex-wife, right? He's shown me a photo of you before. I know how much Michael truly despises you. I've been watching from a distance for a while now. You're really shameless," Emma said. Ava laughed hard, saying, "The always quiet and kind Emma speaks such sharp words." And Olivia, turning pale, said, "Wait a minute, Emma, isn't she Michael's childhood friend?" Emma was taken aback. "Wait, how does she know about me? That's scary." Then a familiar male voice spoke up. "Olivia, what was that earlier, asking Michael to start over, getting so close to him?" "No, my brother and Olivia's husband stood there." "What?" "No. When did you get here?" Olivia flirted. "I saw you coming on to Michael. I heard everything. "We're getting a divorce, you deceitful person," Noel said, his voice trembling. Then turning to Michael, "I know I wronged you by marrying Olivia in such a manner, but I've finally seen the light. I was naive, fooled by Olivia's convenient lies and deceit. I feel ashamed of myself. I sincerely apologize for hurting you, my brother. I truly am sorry. It's okay. I don't hold a grudge. If you've come to your senses, that's good. But maybe you should be more discerning about women," I said. And he replied, "You're right. I'll reflect on this. I'll start over after the divorce." Olivia, in panic, clung to Noel's arm. "No way. I won't accept a divorce." "What are you saying, Noel? Didn't we swear our love to each other?" But Noel, with a look of disgust, shook her arm. "Don't touch me. Regarding the divorce, I'll have my lawyer see to you." Olivia was in tears. But that's so cruel. I've loved you since we were kids. When I transferred in elementary school, you were so kind to me. I dreamt of marrying you someday. And when we met again at the reunion as adults, I was so happy we could date and then marry in the summer. She was just a girl from another school who attended the same swimming class as you in elementary school, right? I always saw you returning from the class with her, and now you're with her. That's so unfair. I loved you more," Olivia sobbed as she spoke. "I was dumbfounded. Then why did you decide to divorce me and remarry my brother while we were married? That's just cruel, isn't it? Do you understand how I felt when I was betrayed by both my wife and brother? Have you ever considered anyone else's feelings? You just want whatever you desire at the moment, right? That's childish thinking. No, even children can understand other people's pain. After our divorce, I struggled with insomnia because of the emotional pain. Then, through a friend from my hometown, I reconnected with Emma, who comforted and supported me during my tough times. She thought about my pain with me. And now, Olivia, you've hurt my brother Noel in front of him. You came on to me, asking to start over. How many times do you need to hurt people before you're satisfied? You're truly the worst. As I vented, Olivia tearfully said. But it's natural to want a husband who is capable, and are as well, right? I left you for Noel because he had a higher income. But now you have become successful and famous, so naturally I want to get back with you. Right in the next moment, Ava burst into laughter, saying, "Michael and Noel, this woman is unbelievable." Cut ties with her quickly. Then, turning to Olivia, AA said, "Olivia, I can somewhat understand your feelings, but fundamentally, you're wrong as a person. If you want, I'm always here at this bar. Come and see me, and I'll give you a Thor scolding to straighten you out." Then Mason interjected, "Once you enter Ava's lecture hell, even crying children go silent." Hearing this, I also added, "I know. I've seen several people shaken by her lecture hell right here." Mason and I chuckled together, but Noel and Olivia were frozen with expressionless faces. "I'll be staying at a hotel for the next 3 days. Leave the house within that time. I'll proceed with the divorce proceedings starting tonight," Noel said to Olivia, realizing he was serious. Olivia silently settled the bill with Mason and left the bar alone. "You did well to speak up. I roughly get the story. So you were deceived by that woman for a long time, right? Well, your sin is not forgivable. You have no choice but to reflect deeply. Michael here is a magnanimous man, so I think he'll forgive you for now. Buy Michael a drink and me too, while you're at it," Ava said, looking at Noel. Understanding, Mason replied, "Please get a drink for Michael, Ava, and also for Emma." Noel responded, "Then I made Noel sit 1 seat away from me, and I moved next to Emma at the counter. Today was supposed to be the anniversary of my marriage to Olivia. I never imagined it would turn out like this. No, said dejected. Eva silently comforted him by patting his shoulder. But Noah, you're stubborn. Once you make up your mind, if you've decided to start over after leaving Olivia, I'm sure happiness will come your way, I encouraged him. I'm sorry for being such a terrible brother who hurt you. Thank you. Noah apologized. Well, it's all good now. The evil spirit is gone. Cheers. AA raised her cocktail glass high, given by Noah. More importantly, today is a significant day for Michael. Forget about Noah. If you're truly repentant as a brother, celebrate his new beginning. Eva said to Noah. A new beginning? Noah asked that question. Actually, I'm moving to France for a while because of work, so I took a small box out of my pocket. Emma, please come with me. Let's get married. I promised to make you happy. Inside the box was a ring. I had told Emma about moving to France, but it was the first time I asked her to come with me. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she answered strongly, "Thank you. I'd be happy to come with you. I'll support you as your wife for life." In the next moment, Mason quietly started clapping. Noticing this, Ava stood up and shouted, "Bravo!" clapping loudly. The other customers in the bar also turned to us and joined in the applause. When I glanced over, Noah was crying tears of joy. Half a year passed, and I had expanded my work and network in France, achieving great success as a hair and makeup artist. Emma and I were living happily together. And then, after a long while, I returned to the US for a visit and went to my parents' house. My mother said something like this the other day. Olivia's parents came over to apologize. We were worried when you and Olivia divorced, and she married Noah, but you told us. We all agreed on it, so don't worry. After talking with her parents, we finally understood the whole story. It was quite a mess. They seemed really sorry for raising Olivia to be so selfish. Well, I always thought you boys lacked judgment in women. My mother said this and laughed. She raised us with a belief in the absolute importance of a higher education, but now she's become more understanding and supports my career. Of course, my father is fully supportive of me too. By the way, Noel seems to be dating a woman his age that he met at work. I hope it works out for him this time, like it did for you and Emma. My mother shared this news with me. I was happy to hear it. I want Noah to be happy too. And now even for Olivia, I hope she learns from her mistakes, so her parents don't have to apologize for her again. At their age, everyone makes wrong choices in life. Of course, it's better not to make mistakes, but what matters is how you handle them afterward, I believe. Not everything in my future will be smooth sailing, but I'll cherish each moment and move forward. I have a place in France. There's still so much more to explore. Leaving my parents' house, I looked up at the sky, ready to board the plane.
I had to take a wheelchair-bound woman who had fallen and hurt herself to the hospital, which caused me to be late for the important CEO inauguration party. Had you assisted a woman using a wheelchair, you might have just gone to the location and called for an ambulance. Ken, if someone puts society's garbage before their work, they'll be dismissed. Fu was about to invest $150 million in our company, the CEO stated to Ben, the CEO of the other company, while putting his arm around my shoulder. Laughing, isn't it the appropriate decision to fire people who don't work? It's just stupid to pay such worthless workers a paycheck. Really a worthless employee, just a loudmouth with no actual substance. And then there was the woman in the wheelchair, calling me society's trash. Nancy. I was taken aback when I heard that name because I remembered what Ken's secretary, Jessie, had told me. I was shocked that what I had done, which had made me late, would become Ken's worst nightmare. John Aaron is my name. I work with Rue in Recycling of Happiness Incorporated, which gathers used toys and clothing from kids in the U.S. and donates them to kids all over the world. When I was in school, I belonged to the photography club. After high school, I got a job at a small printing company because I wanted to learn more about printing. Since local print shops and home printers were still common at the time, the company mostly accepted orders online. As a result, our claustrophobic office, crammed with machinery, had only 5 staff. I had been with the company for 5 years. People of all ages began placing online orders for photo prints as smartphones proliferated, which greatly boosted the profits of the printing business I worked for. After 2 years, we had grown to over 100 employees and added fan clothing, prints, and novelty items for businesses to our list of offerings. A photographer called Kate, and I began dating during this time after I fell in love with her at an art fair. She became pregnant 6 months later, and our wedding was shotgun. I was really nervous about having kids because I was an only child, but my daughter was a blessing, and we spent our weekends looking for different family activities to go to. My wife proposed that we go to a sustainability event one Sunday. I strolled about holding my daughter while she was busy perusing merchandise. The Rue booth, which featured recycled apparel and eco-friendly toys, piqued the interest of my 2-year-old daughter. The amazing tagline, "Connecting Dreams from Children in the U.S. to Children Around the World with Goods," moved me as I read a pamphlet that had information about underprivileged children worldwide. Since the event was open until late, I gathered my daughter's unused clothes and went back to the Rue booth to donate them. It was just before the event closed. Afterward, I felt a strong desire to do more for underprivileged children, so I left the printing company where I had worked for 10 years and joined Rue. David, the president of Rue, was a person I deeply respected. Despite being the president, he would participate in the planning department meetings I was part of, offering his opinions and even coming up with ideas himself. The company attracted kind people. The atmosphere was so positive that even in the planning department, we built relationships based on mutual respect rather than rivalry. I truly believed it was my calling. Just when I was getting accustomed to the job, all employees were suddenly gathered, and David made an announcement. "I'm sorry for the sudden notice, but I've decided to volunteer in Africa and start a new venture." Everyone was speechless at such an unexpected turn of events. Ken, the vice president, will become the new president of Rue. Perhaps knowing that the employees would try to stop him if he informed them earlier, David quickly finished his farewell and flew to Africa. While still unable to grasp the situation, I was called by the new president, Ken Coleman. Led by the secretary, Jesse, to the CEO's office, I found Ken deeply seated on a sofa in a room filled with the smell of cigarettes. It was hard to believe it was the same room where David used to be. Enveloped in a haze of cigarette smoke, it felt like stepping into a different space altogether. This weekend, we're having my inauguration party, and I want the planning department to prepare it. But we've never done something like this before, and we don't know how to arrange it. Ken frowned and glared at me. My legs froze in fear, as if I was in the presence of a monster. "I'm sorry. Please let me do it. Should have said that from the start. What a pain." Ken called out to Jesse. "Hey, Jesse, now 32, is highly competent. I've heard she's been supporting David's since she joined the company as a fresh graduate. Book the venue today and call the media too. I want my inauguration party to spread across the internet." Jess replied with an awkward smile. Ken's overwhelming attitude made me wonder, did David really leave this man in charge? "John, plan a new project and prepare the documentation by Thursday. We're announcing it to the media, so make it something catchy and innovative." Thursday. But today's Monday. That's impossible, especially with the party preparations. What Ken said next was the most intimidating and frightening thing I'd ever heard in my life, making me fear I might be fired if I said anything more negative. I shared only the party details with my department, deciding to proceed alone so as not to burden them with a new project. On Wednesday, after pulling an all-nighter to finish the project proposal, I headed to the CEO's office. As usual, the room was filled with the suffocating smell of cigarette smoke, and Jesse looked uncomfortable. I placed the documents in front of Ken and began the presentation. Just as I started explaining the project, collaborating with a children's book author to create books that teach the importance of sustainable practices to young children in kindergartens and elementary schools across the U.S., Ken threw the documents on the floor. "This isn't innovative at all." "Do it over," he said, dismissing the plan without even looking at a single page. "Honestly, I don't care about helping kids. Think about what brings in profit for the company." His statement was shocking. Is this what the president of Ruin should be saying? The thought of continuing to work under such a person filled me with despair. As I ate the lunch my wife made, feeling anxious, Jesse sat beside me. "I'm sorry," Jesse apologized with a look of guilt. "Why are you apologizing?" "Ken is the worst. I regret not convincing the former president, David, more strongly." "But why was Ken chosen?" "I don't understand since I've never worked with him before." Checking that no one was around, Jesse began to whisper. "Actually, Ken is the husband of David's younger sister, Nancy. She had to quit her job due to a severe illness at a young age." It was the first time I had heard about David's personal life. Ken apparently struggled with gambling and money. David hired him, hoping that work at Ruin would help straighten him out, offering support and a salary. That's admirable. But to make such a person president. In recent years, he pretended to be very diligent and enthusiastic about work in front of the president. So that was it. David must have let his guard down because they were family. At a dinner, Ken passionately spoke about wanting Nancy to receive better treatment and live longer, convincing David, who was thinking of expanding overseas, to entrust Ruin to him. Jessie sighed deeply, her usual upright posture slumped. With David gone, Ken was already doing as he pleased. The betrayal of kindness was unforgivable, and I worried about the company's future. The day before the CEO's inauguration party, it was Thursday, I took the revised documents and went back to the CEO's office again. Different languages, cultures, and backgrounds. But one thing children have in common is memories with family and friends. Every child has someone important and a memory they don't want to forget. My heart was pounding. It felt like it was about to jump out of my body. It's a collaboration with photography. We go to countries with impoverished children, where photographers take and print their photos as gifts. Suppressing a cough from the cigarette smell, I presented my thoroughly thought-out project. It was inspired by photos my wife took for work last night. We'll be using recycled paper for the prints. Clothes and toys might be thrown away as we grow up, but photos remain treasures for a lifetime. That won't make any money. How are we supposed to generate revenue with this content? Ken scoffed. You're still as useless as ever. But I guess we'll go with it. Whether we actually do it or not isn't important, right? Give a presentation for it, will you? I really wanted to shout. What's important is that we actually do it. But exhausted from all the all-nighters, I was just relieved that I didn't have to redo the documents. I left the CEO's office. On the day of the CEO's inauguration party, I practiced my presentation at the company until the last minute and then headed to the venue. I called a cab using an app in time. As I waited for the taxi at the company's entrance, a woman in a wheelchair and a high school-aged boy on a skateboard collided right in front of me. Just as the sound of the wheelchair falling echoed, the taxi arrived. The woman couldn't get up by herself and sat on the ground. I would be late for the party if I didn't take the taxi now. Looking at the boy, his face was pale and he was flustered. When I looked back at the woman, I noticed she had injured her elbow and leg. Witnessing the entire scene, I thought, I would regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't help her. So, I lifted the woman into the taxi and joined her. Then, the startled boy helped get the wheelchair into the taxi. "I'm so sorry. Please, I'll pay for the hospital expenses," the boy blurted out. "Don't worry about it. I'm just not used to going out in a wheelchair, so it's okay," the woman reassured him. What a kind woman. In the taxi, I called my colleague, Sherry Garfield, who was preparing at the venue, and spoke about the new project for the first time. I could tell she was upset with me for not consulting her, but she agreed to give a presentation in my place. After dropping the woman off at the hospital, I rushed to the venue. On stage, Sherry was presenting my plan. After the presentation, the venue erupted in applause, which made me very happy. Then, Ken spoke into the microphone. This project was her idea. What a great subordinate. I felt bitter. My carefully thought-out plan was credited to Sherry by a single comment from Ken. But I accepted it. Being late to the important inauguration party was my responsibility. Then, a man raised his hand. It was Ben Hunt, the president of the printing company I used to work for. "I will provide $150 million in funding for this project. Let's make children around the world smile together." The venue buzzed. Ken beamed with a smile, shook hands with Ben, and the media surrounded them, taking pictures. I stood frozen at the corner of the venue, overwhelmed by complex emotions and unable to sort out my feelings. "Wasn't this your project, John?" It was Ben. As I was lost in thought, Ben had approached me. I felt a mix of happiness to see Ben after such a long time and wonder at how he knew it was my idea. As if my pent-up frustrations were spilling out, I shared everything that had happened with Ben. "But I really want to do this project. If you're on the project team, I'm more than happy to invest. Work might be tough at times, but as long as you're acting for the benefit of others, good things will come back to you in different forms." Ben's words cleared my frustrations, and I was reminded of my initial desire to make children around the world happy no matter what. After the inauguration speech, everyone was enjoying conversations and meals. I approached Ken, who was happily talking with Ben, and apologized. Then, I explained why I was late for the presentation. "So my inauguration party was just that trivial to you?" "Not at all. I'm truly sorry. I helped the woman in the wheelchair. You could have just called an ambulance and headed to the menu. If someone prioritizes scum of society over their work, they'll get fired." "No. I promised I won't make such a mistake again. Just not firing, please." Ken put his arm around me and turned to Ben, laughing. "A person who doesn't work is to be fired, right? Paying such a person is just silly. Always talking back to the boss. Really a useless employee." Hearing those words, Ben left the venue without saying anything. I felt ashamed and worthless, having convinced my wife and received support from everyone at the printing company to change jobs for this opportunity, and now having to leave this company as well. Then, the woman in the wheelchair I had taken to the hospital appeared at the venue. Are you okay?" In front of Ken, the woman in the wheelchair said, "Am I what you call the scum of society?" "Nancy." The moment I heard the name Nancy, I remembered the story about Ken's wife that I had heard from the secretary, Jessie. I couldn't believe that this woman was Nancy. Nancy approached me and took out her wallet. It seems it fell at the entrance of the hospital. When I looked inside, I found my husband's business card, so I thought you might be here. I'm glad you were lately. Since everyone uses smartphone payments, I hadn't even realized I'd lost my wallet. Thank you so much for going out of your way. Are you hurt?" Nancy smiled and said, "No, I'm okay." Nancy was the one you helped. I owe you my thanks. Ken, contrary to his earlier demeanor, smiled at me and expressed his gratitude. "If you've saved my wife, that's a different story. I won't fire you as a thank you." Ken spoke cheerfully with a drink in his hand, but Nancy didn't look convinced. "That's awful. You just called me the scum of society." "It wasn't about you. It's because he abandoned my important party and acted on his own. Ken began to speak faster, and sweat was dripping from his forehead. It was the first time I'd seen him so desperate. I came dressed up because I wanted to celebrate your important inauguration party today. When I saw Nancy had fallen, I thought, she's wearing a really nice dress. Now it's clear that she had originally intended to attend. But I fell over after bumping into a boy on a skateboard. I was injured and couldn't get up, so he came to help me. Her arms and legs were bandaged. I remembered her words, "I'm not used to going out in a wheelchair." "Then you should have gone home." The words Ken uttered were neither "thank you for coming," nor "are you okay?" but something that deeply hurt her feelings. "It's because you're doing something you're not used to." "Oh please, someone shut him up." I silently screamed, unable to say anything as I had arrived late. "I thought being the president meant you were trusted. I tolerated your attitude at home, thinking you were stressed because you were trying so hard. But perhaps he was saying terrible things to Nancy, who was sick." Without changing her expression, Nancy picked up Ken's meal from the table. "What? You want to eat?" Nancy threw the plate at Ken with all her might. Pizza sauce stained Ken's shirt. "Hey, what are you doing?" "I've had enough. I want a divorce." A divorce declaration in front of so many people was unexpected. Nancy must have been under a lot of stress to make such a declaration in public. "What? You can live on your own. Don't get cocky. You've lived a life completely dependent on me. Just because of a little criticism, you're attacking with divorce. Divorce?" Listening to his typical abusive husband remarks made my heart ache. What kind of life leads someone to say such things? That's right. I'm ashamed to be dependent on someone like you. Of course, I'm grateful, but more than that, I hate being known as your wife. Nancy continued talking through her tears. It wasn't just complaints about their marriage life, but about how he'd trampled on the feelings of David and defended me. "You've tarnished the company that your brother carefully built up, and now you're firing someone who helped people. You're finished as a human being. David was kind and valued others more than himself." "Yeah? Divorce? Divorce. I'm not generous enough to support someone who just complains. I have an investor willing to pay me $150 million, so I'm happy to give you a divorce." Everyone at the venue must have thought what a prideful person he was. And yet, Ben had said he would invest in the project, not in Ken as a person. Ungrateful, Ken took off his wedding ring and placed it on the table. Everything was a mess. Before I knew it, the topic of conversation had shifted to divorce, and I couldn't help but worry. What if Kate has complaints about me too? It puzzled me why Nancy chose such a large venue to bring up divorce, but then I thought, maybe she feels so threatened at home that she could only say it here. Try to change. It's not me who needs to change. It's you guys who can't meet my expectations. Nancy was at a loss for words. Of course, she was. Nobody wants to see their husband like this. You want a divorce, right? Then don't say anything more to me. I was dying to know why Nancy married Ken. I wanted to ask right away, but now was not the time. If you keep this up, you'll end up alone. Be quiet. Suddenly, in a panic, Jesse rushed to Ken. "Sir," Jesse handed Ken a smartphone. "It's a disaster. The $150 million deal just fell through." Ken took the phone, pressing it to his ear. "Hello, Ben, what's going on?" "Yes, yes." The room fell silent. Everyone strained their ears, curious about what Ben was saying, but they couldn't make it out. "No. My earlier statement was to educate my employees. The planner, that was Sherry's idea." Ken clearly tried to explain, but then collapsed at his knees as the call ended. Ben, who despises arrogance and dishonesty, might have taken offense to Ken's public disparagement, especially in front of a crowd. But I blamed myself for disappointing Ben, who had been willing to invest $150 million in my project. Yet, if I hadn't stood up for Nancy, who knows what would have happened? What now? Ken sighed, almost laughing. Hey, John, he said in an uncharacteristically deep voice, sending shivers down my spine. You've cost us $150 million. My wife wants a divorce. And look at the mood in this place. What are you going to do about it? What do I do? Firing you wouldn't be enough. Suddenly, I desperately wanted to see my wife and daughter. I might lose everything today, but all I could think about was not what to do with this venue, but how I would support my wife and daughter after quitting my job. So, how are you going to take responsibility? Am I supposed to pay the $150 million? No, I don't have that kind of money. Should I ask for the divorce to be called off? No, that would be unfair to Nancy. As my mind raced, this was not my idea at the venue. Sherry's voice echoed. Everyone watched as Sherry stood with a microphone in hand. The media began taking photos and recording. The creator of this project came up with it in just 3 days while preparing for this party and handling his regular duties. I wasn't even aware that he was planning it at Ken's request. Surely, she must be angry at me for moving forward with the plan without saying anything. But Sherry didn't blame me harshly. Honestly, I wish she had relied on me more. We're teammates after all. I felt terribly sorry for my team. But the reason he could come up with such an exciting plan in just 3 days is because his mind is always filled with the desire to save children around the world. I had forgotten in these past few days, caught up in preparing documents. Roe Incorporated is full of people with pure hearts and kindness. Prioritizing helping people in town over such a pointless party seems like a no-brainer to me. Do you want to be fired too? Now I'm worried. Would Sherry really get fired by Ken? As if prepared for anything, Sherry pointed and glared at Ken. If working under Ken means crushing someone's goodness, I'd rather quit. No one would want to follow a president like that. Ken approached the stage, glass in hand, making noise with his steps. He had forgotten he was being filmed, his expression dominated by anger. I rushed the stage to evacuate Sherry, when honestly I couldn't care less about saving the children. Think about the company's profits. Ken's voice echoed through the venue. These were the words Ken told me when I first made a presentation. I looked at the corner of the stage. There Jesse was playing a recording. The venue buzzed with the shocking content, uncharacteristic of the president of Roe Incorporated. Thinking he couldn't cover it up, Ken stopped just before getting on stage. Jesse, what are you doing? I can't stand it. The head of Roe Incorporated is constantly hurting people, only thinking of himself. Using an investment of $150 million. A divorce announcement from his wife. And to top it off, his own heartless words echoing through the venue. The situation seemed so bad for Ken, it was almost pitiful. Please apologize to everyone. Me? If you're the president, take responsibility for ruining this party. I was surprised by how assertive Jesse was, but it was cool. Do you enjoy making me the villain? No, it's the other way around. I don't want you to become any more of a villain. Ken stopped himself from saying something. The cold stares from everyone in the venue pierced through Ken. He apologized on the spot, his back hunched. The instability was astonishing. He still had some pride left, as he didn't verbally apologize clearly. John, do you have anything you want to say to Ken? Honestly, I was so caught up in understanding the situation, I couldn't think of anything to say. Given the mic by Sherry, I hesitated for a moment before speaking. Then I said, I love this company, my colleagues who work with me, and our clients who support us. Spending 3 nights straight on document preparation, my wife stayed up late to prepare snacks, and my daughter massaged my shoulders with her tiny hands. It made the tough work feel manageable. I became more appreciative of people. The desire to make someone happy seems to spread to those around you. Today sure saved me when I was late. I looked at Sherry. Her expression, previously furrowed in anger, had softened. Ken, I'm truly sorry for ruining this important party, but as an employee of Rink, not helping those in need is not an option for me. I believe my daily actions are connected to my work. As I wondered what I wanted to tell Ken, my mouth seemed to move on its own. I haven't had a deep connection with Ken, having only presented a new project in these 3 days. Anyway, I want to stay at this company. Please revoke my dismissal. Ken, still with his head down, didn't look up, engulfing the party in an awkward atmosphere. No one needs to leave. David Fu, who was supposed to be in Africa, appeared with a confident face. His smile alone brightened the entire venue. Ken looked up, puzzled. I got a call from Jesse, and man, was I surprised, laughed David as he approached Ken and sat down on the ground. What are you doing? What do you mean? Today is the president's inauguration party. Just as he said that, David grabbed Ken's arm, pulling him up energetically onto the stage. What are you doing? Ken looked over the venue. It must have looked different from when he was comfortably greeting everyone an hour ago. I'm not fit to be president. I'm sorry. Ken apologized to everyone in the venue again and left the stage. After that, the party came to an end. While cleaning up the venue, I was approached by David. John, I'm sorry. I should be the one apologizing. It all happened because I was late. David gathered the employees who were cleaning up the venue. Thank you, everyone. I thought to myself, what a great company this is. Everyone's faces softened at David's words. David has the power to make people smile with just a few words. I'll review the system so everyone can work with peace of mind. Just give me some time. I spoke to Nancy as she was about to get into a taxi. Nancy, why did you marry Ken? Nancy paused for a moment, then said with a shy smile, because he seemed strong. I laughed at the surprisingly simple reason. Maybe I was overthinking it. But that's no reason to get married. If you misunderstand what it means to be strong, it just becomes violence. Maybe it's just not knowing how to protect oneself. My spontaneous remarks surprised Nancy. People who seem weak get protected by others, but those who appear strong are thought to be okay because they look tough. They're fighting alone. As I spoke, I couldn't help but imagine Ken's childhood. Someone capable of uttering such harsh words must have gone through something in the past. But that's no excuse to hurt others. Nancy held my hand and said, "Thank you." After cleaning up the party, I rushed home. The plan I worked hard on with the help of my wife and daughter fell through. Despite receiving many hugs from my daughter, the various things Ken said still stuck in me like thorns. Words can hurt people. Words can make people happy. Words can change lives. It was a day that made me strongly realize something I had taken for granted. A month later, I'm working lively every day as an employee of rowing. In the end, Ken left the company and divorced Nancy. The incident at the party spread through online news, and Ken's intentions were perceived negatively. Jesse, who had worked hard under David, became the president at the young age of 32. Despite various comments from clients and others, we, the employees, are satisfied with Jesse as president. Ken, having lost his job and family, was wandering aimlessly. Feeling sorry for him, David suggested that he join him in volunteer work in Africa. To reach out to Ken, Fu had hurt his sister, and many employees showed how generous a person David is. I couldn't do something like that. Everyone thought Ken would definitely refuse, but surprisingly, he decided to go to Africa. When Ken visited the company after a long time, his expression was much more peaceful. It's hard to believe that someone who used to be so thorny could become so mellow. After apologizing to everyone, Ken left for Africa. Meanwhile, Sher, inspired by meeting Nancy at the party, planned a project not for children, but aimed at helping women who struggle to live on their own. Even men who disrespect women were born from a woman's body. That's exactly right. Schur proposed to David to include Nancy in the project team and got the okay. Nancy used her experiences to speak at talk shows and post on social media about ways to live happily despite illnesses. Nancy is now smiling at work, living happily. That's enough. And then Ben decided to fund the project I had planned. With the support of my wife Kate, I'm working hard as the project leader. It's complicated to think that this project wouldn't have come about without Ken, but I thought I'd thank him the next time we meet. The few days after Ken became president felt like a long nightmare. At the same time, I was filled with gratitude for the many people who saved me from that nightmare. I wonder how many people I can make happy in my lifetime. How many people I can save from nightmares. Believing that my actions today will lead to the happiness of future children, I'll keep working hard today.